Hi everybody, I'd like to talk to you about the struggles that many of us are having as a result of this current pandemic, one of which being the art of working from home while being a parent. So this is a completely new experience for many of you, myself included. And what that brings up is all sorts of challenges, emotional responses, and new relationship dynamics between yourself and your colleagues, yourself and your children, and other partners perhaps that are in the house as well. So working from home is challenging in itself because we've got to create that conducive work environment, plan our day in a different way. But throw children in on top of that, and we have a completely potentially chaotic situation, and one full of new and challenging demands, which can bring out the worst in people in terms of their stress levels and their sense of self and their sense of doing enough and being enough. So that's what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about today, the struggles of being the work at home parent. So in terms of what that can bring up on an emotional level, it can bring up guilt because I'm not doing enough as an employee, and in this environment I'm also not doing enough as a parent. It can bring up frustration and anxiety because there is a want to do more, probably on both levels, but reality is that that's quite often not possible. We can't do both at the same time. That's the reality. You can't do both at the same time. So we're going to have to readjust our expectations and our view of ourselves around some of that also. It can bring up anxiety on lots of different levels. So for some people, it'll bring up a whole untapped anxiety around school. Not everybody enjoyed school, and not everybody was perceived as being good in school in an academic sense. And now here we are managing our way through our own work environment, our work demands, and we're brought back to tables and spellings and Irish and lots of other subjects that we had long forgotten. And that can tap into old anxieties around how I feel about myself, how you feel about yourself in the schooling environment. So that's something to bear in mind as well. I often hear parents say, gosh, I can't believe I don't know first class maths. So there's a lot of negative self-talk around that side of the work as well. I just want to go back to that feeling then of guilt and what that brings up. So there's that feeling that I can't focus on my work, but I also can't really focus on what my child needs right now, which is essentially a teacher. But I just want to dispel that myth because we're not expected to be the teachers. You are not expected to be the teachers. The art of juggling is going to come in here, and also I want to introduce you then to the art of balance. So it's about recognising and realising that we can't do both excellently well, and we also, our main focus here is to do our work. If we're employed and we're paid and we need to continue our work commitments, unfortunately for our children at this time, that's probably going to be the thing that needs to take priority. That doesn't mean we turn our back on what our children or your children might need. It just means readjusting your own expectations around the fact that you're not expected to be the teacher here. You're expected to work and be the parent at home to work. And you're expected to support your child to do some self-directed learning where possible, but not to take over the role of teacher. And I think a lot of teachers and principals will expect that, will understand that, should I say. So that's just something really important to bear in mind. What that can bring up then is struggles around time management. So how much time do I give to my working day, and how much time do I give to helping my child with their schoolwork? And so that's where balance comes in, the art of balance that I just mentioned already. When it comes to that, we're going to have to take a step back for a minute and just readjust our perspective on things. So that means that we need to take the opportunity to look at what our expectations are versus what the reality of the situation is. Don't expect yourself as an employee to put in a day's work equivalent to what you would do in the office. While you might feel a pressure around that, and there might even be expectations from external sources around that, the reality is that is not possible in this environment. And I think and I believe from what I've been hearing and who I've been speaking to, that the majority of our employers really do understand that. So I would recommend, first and foremost, maybe setting some realistic expectations with your colleagues, with your employer, around what's going on in my house at the moment, how many children are there, what the demands are around that, and just, letting them know that, yes, I'm working, however, my pace might be slightly different. And I think it's really okay to set those realistic expectations with our employers. And I do believe that they would understand. It can be quite a load off to even just say that out loud as well. The other thing is to set expectations and versus reality around our ability to homeschool our children. Like I said a moment ago, this isn't about homeschooling. You're not the teacher. It's about supporting your child to do some self-directed learning. So we might have to readjust our thinking around what's good enough in both of those circumstances. So within a therapeutic setting, we often talk about just being good enough, and in general, how hard that is to accept. And this is where that concept will come into play primarily during this time, is that feeling and acceptance of being just good enough. We don't need to be the perfect employee at this moment in time. We don't need to be the perfect teacher and perfect parent. It's not possible. It's about being good enough, doing your job good enough around the expectations that have been agreed between you and your employer, and teaching your child or supporting self-directed learning with your child in a good enough way. There's lots of new opportunities to teach your children or to support their learning, should I say, during this time. And it's not all about academic schoolwork. It's about learning patience. It's about learning to have to do some things on their own. It's about learning that mum or dad have other commitments, and perhaps our children are not the centre of our world. You might have a battle with that one, but it's worth naming that in child-friendly language, of course. What else do we need to readjust? Screen time. So I know that's a really big issue just in everyday life, the battle between parents and screen time. But there may need to be a readjustment done around that. So accept that screens at this moment in time are going to play more of a role in our lives, mine, yours, and our children's, than ever before. We're operating primarily through screens. We're working from home through laptops, through devices, and our children are schooling from home through laptops and devices as well, a lot of the time. So not only will screens be used for learning, but screens will be used for downtime. And you may find yourself redirecting your child towards the TV, to the laptop, to the iPad, whichever their device of preference in your home is. And I understand that there's a lot of guilt around that. This is the time to let go of some of that guilt, because it's a needs-must situation. And that's not to say that you will park your child in front of the TV for the 8 hours or 9 hours a day that you're working. It's about really just letting yourself off the hook, that if they're watching a little bit more TV than usual or playing on the iPad a little bit more than usual, given what's happening at the moment and the hopefully temporary nature of all of this, that's okay, and that it's good enough that they're having some screen time away, even if it's less than usual. So it's really, really important to bear in mind. If that's hard and it's difficult and you need to buy some more time away from your children, guilt-free, a way to do that is to also readjust your perspective of what the screen can bring. So I mentioned learning through screens, and really Ireland has come together amazingly to support our children during this time. So RTE at the moment have launched a school day programme that runs at, I think, 11 o'clock every day for an hour. Excellent opportunity to park the kids in front of a screen and let them have some educational insight and input, while we have some much needed either our own screen time through work or just a coffee break. Other really useful tools through the screen are things like Cosmic Yoga, which is an amazing website for kids. It teaches yoga through storytelling, so it gets them moving. You can do it in the house. You don't need any equipment, and it's all through the laptop or the iPad or the phone. So it doesn't feel educational to the children. It feels like they're watching a program which is interactive, which I think is brilliant. Dublin Zoo also every day have a live feed, and between 2 and half 2 they feed the animals, and you can log into that and watch the animals wandering around the zoo and getting fed and things like that. So another great educational opportunity. There's great apps and websites for children as well, around mindfulness, breathing, guided meditations. And if you Google any of those terms, lots of videos like that will pop up through YouTube. They're very child friendly, very effective, and a really good way to pass 20 minutes or 10 minutes or even 5 minutes through the screen with your children. So I suppose what I'm trying to encourage is that you take the pressure off yourself and you allow yourself to just be good enough in this moment, and to embrace screens, accept that there might be more screen time than usual, and if that's an issue, look at how you might introduce more educational and physical components of learning through the screen. Other ways in which children will learn in this environment, in this new times that we find ourselves in, will be it's a perfect opportunity to learn to play outdoors on our own, learn to get involved in the cooking and the baking and the cleaning and a chore list. So, be patient with yourself, be patient with your child, and remember that it's not all about desktop learning, and you don't have to be the teacher. So I think that's really, really important to allow ourselves as working parents to get some balance back into our lives and to just breathe out a sigh of relief. The other thing I would like to mention is that you might be feeling these things, the pressure, the guilt, you're seeing everybody else's children, or you might be in WhatsApp groups where other parents are saying, oh yes, we managed to get this amount of work done today, or this is what we did today. I guarantee that everybody else is struggling in their own unique ways. So what you see is not always the reality. And even if it is the reality, it doesn't mean that it's been smooth sailing for that other family or those other parents. So just remember that we're all struggling with this in our own unique ways, and you are not alone in it. It's new, it's brand new to all of us. So it goes without saying that we're all finding our feet in it. So try not to compare yourself to other families and other parents at this time. Some helpful tips then around how we can kind of try to balance all of those things and readjust and get a little bit of order back in our life as a working parent. I would say, if you can and have space to do so, plan your day the night before. If that means, having those apps set up and ready to go on your child's screen, or having the school books laid out in a certain way, or your own work day scheduled around times that children are going to be able to engage in self-directed learning, that would be really, really helpful. I know some mums who are pre-preparing packed lunches for their kids the night before, and they're super women, in my opinion. But that is a great idea. So if you can manage to do that, it's one less chore to do during the busy working day. Take breaks for yourself. Remember, you are not expected to do all of this all of the time. You need a break. Your kids need a break also, from you and from the schoolwork. So relax a little bit if you can and pull away. Finish your working day at the usual time. Don't please fight the urge, should I say, really, to continue working past your usual working day or to work through your lunch breaks. It's important for you to have some order and routine, and that the usual time that you're walking through your front door remains the same at this time, and that we're not still distracted by unfinished work at the dinner table or in the evening, because you need to rest also. Remember acceptance. Remember being good enough, and remember to try and build those that language into your own self-talk. When you hear yourself making a guilty or negative comment around yourself, just inject the message that, you know what, I'm good enough, and this is good enough for now. And remember that this won't last forever. If you have a partner at home, share the load. Balance your work day whereby you at least have some time away from the children in a different room, or that you're not the teacher today or for that portion of the day. So do share the load where you have a partner who's in the home as well. If you have children that are older, get them involved in helping out with younger children. So this is all about everybody pulling together where possible, and not feeling like you have to carry it all by yourself. So remember to breathe amongst all of that. Remember that you are good enough and that you are not expected to do it all. And let's try to readjust our expectations versus the reality here. And hopefully we'll get through it all unscathed. So thank you for listening, and I hope that was helpful.